Greetings, Patrick here. 8 Questions with. Welcome to the show. It is the first of two this week. We got two shows. We got one today and one tomorrow. And so thank you for being here. Our guest tonight is actor Patreck Farley. He'll be with us in about 15 minutes. I'm looking outside at a beautiful day here in Michigan, southeastern Michigan, but a cold day. It's freezing in here. It's about 30 to 35 degrees outside, and it is definitely chipper. Glad to have you guys are here. We're going to be talking about with Patreck. He's another young and rising actor who's working very hard at his career, and he's got some things going on, some percolating going on. So we're very happy to have him here to chat with us. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I've been looking forward to this discussion, and we're gonna make sure that you guys are entertained as well. Hey, Stephen, how are you? Hi, Sue, how are you? I finished another book. Sue. I actually got another one down. I read a autobiography from pitcher Tom Seaver. So I got another one down. Now I'm starting to read a Harlan Coben book called "Fool Me Once," I guess, which was made into a movie. But I picked it up and looking forward to getting into it. Hi, Stephen. How are you? No problem. I see you working your ass today. Stephen, on your new movie idea, that's I've been watching it from the sidelines. I've been keeping. I don't have anything really to offer because I'm not an actor, but I've been watching you guys talk, and it's been pretty interesting. Okay, let's see. And Anthony says he got to meet Kristen Ritter. Kristen Ritter is amazing. She was awesome. Brother Max is in the house. And Anthony just talked to the convention manager. That's good, Anthony. Yeah, Kristen Ritter's she's a badass. Absolutely loved her in Jessica Jones. I think I'm sort of bummed out that she has not popped up in Daredevil. I had hoped that her character would at least make an appearance. But they did do something different. They took one of her supporting actors on Jessica Jones, Iman, I guess his first name was, and he is going to be playing Johnny Storm. So there are some of the Marvel movies on Netflix. Their legacy still lives on, per se. Don't know what Finn Jones is doing. Haven't heard anybody mention at all Iron Fist, so I'm not sure if it's going to let that fade away. I guess the big news today was that Marvel did the casting reveal for the new Doomsday movie, and holy crow, they threw everything at the wall. That's for sure. It's absolutely going to be crazy, the cast on that. But what's really interesting is not so much who they cast, it's who they didn't. That was really interesting to me. It's like who they didn't put up there. I think they had a chance to fix a couple of problems, and they didn't choose to do so. It would have been really interesting to see some characters that or some series that needed some love. Of course, I'm totally bummed out that Robert Downey Jr. is playing Doctor Doom. I think it's a horrible casting and disappointing. It's disappointing, and I don't think I just think he was just the wrong person to play it. All right. As far as Patreck goes, he is actually he's not only is he an actor, he's also a martial artist. He's a videographer, so he goes to shoots different events. He's been part of this new franchise that are just getting up off the ground called the Fatal Encounter. Um, I'm sure that's going to be showing off his where he plays Fennec, um, which is we're gonna be talking to him about that. That's cool. I'm what I'm really hoping about that is what I'm really hoping about that is the fact I hope it's a if it's a short film series, that's a cool idea. It's a great pitch idea. For one thing, and what I'm really happy about is that he is a martial artist. Is that we need to get him in front of the camera soon, like real soon, because we got a young star here. And one of the things that we've talked about on this show before, it's a lack of young martial art talent in Hollywood these days. There just isn't any. Um, there just isn't. I mean, you got a lot of the good names out there, like Scott Adkins, and of course you got Michael J. White, you got Ray Park. Uh, there's a few other out. Cynthia Rothrock can still throw a scorpion kick. But you got the old timers though. Like Jackie Chan and Jet Li and Donnie Yen. But the one thing they have in common, Tony Jaa, Wing Chu, Ju Wing, is they're all older. They're all older actors, and I don't know anybody right now. And you would think that with Cobra Kai coming out there and the popularity of that show, you would have thought that there have been, some more movies coming out of that, some actors coming out of that series doing some martial art films. It's just a huge gap in action and adventure movies with a martial artist. And they did a survey, and they said that of all the movies that people want to see right now, they want to see action adventure movies. I think they would like to see them with some martial arts in it. I love martial art movies. I That's one of my favorite genres actually. I love them and I like talking about them. And I may not know, like I said, I may not know the techniques or how to fight, but I like watching it. Uh, I noticed how now some people were reviewing, some Bruce Lee movies. Man, I love Bruce Lee. I mean, he definitely is the gatekeeper. When you think about martial arts, I mean, he's one that broke it here wide open in America. With him, Jim Kelly, and John Saxon, of course. Um, but man, I Fist of Legend is probably my favorite martial art movie with uh, um with Flashpoint. Um, uh, just amazing, flipping great movies. Um, there are some other actors out there that are that they're good fighters. They're good martial arts fighters on screen. Um, Hell, even our good buddy Mike Ferguson, he's been known to throw a punch here and there. We got our Josh Hahn, who played John Lee, who was the godson or the grandson of Oddball from the James Bond movie. Now I know that he had done a few pitch videos where a pitch video means or a short film where they showed off like a fighting scene, and it's great. It's absolutely great. You see the scene and you go like, I want to make this happen. I want to make a movie wrapped around this, but nothing's happened. I mean, those are great and everything, but you got to have follow up on that. You got to like, okay, you're showing me a 5 minute, 6 minute, what could be, but how can we help you make this happen? What do you need? And I just have never seen anybody. I've never seen anybody from a martial arts indie film. They haven't put anything out as far as Indiegogo or anything like that. I mean, horror movies use that to fund their movies. Um, I don't see why other genres don't use it as well. Well, you're not a horror movie. You're not going to go ahead. I mean, that's how they get them made. They go out there and say, "Yeah, let's do it." Um, all I know is that this is, Patrick could be the face, as you can see by the picture we use for him. you can see that not only is he a martial artist, but he's also has leading man good looks. He could definitely be the face of somebody's, a hero or even villain of somebody's a feature film. He has to look. He definitely has to look. Um, hi, but I don't know how to say that. Bridzel. Hi, how are you? Um, so I guess that's just it's gonna be interesting to talk to Patrick about that, see how he feels, see if see kind of feelers that he's gotten. I'm sure he's repped. I'm sure that somebody's managing him right now. I just could not see that happening right now. I mean, he's like I said, he's got a lot going for him right now. And it'll be interesting to see where it goes in the future. But we're gonna be talking with him here in a few minutes. Uh, let's see. We do have another show tomorrow. Tomorrow we have Will, our good friend Will, coming in here. He is a cryptologist. Woo. All right. Yeah, we had to move his show back till tomorrow for Red House Productions. He'll be here tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. We're going to be talking all sorts of things that go bump in the night. Can't wait for that. Of course, we have, and we're going to talk about Wendigos. We're going to talk about Big Feet and Bigfoot. Uh, we're going to see if any rumors, there's any truth to the rumors that there is a Bigfoot in Tennessee, because I've heard and seen that there's been 2 movies made of Tennessee Bigfoot. So we need to find out if that's really a thing. Um, hey Tom, how are you? Um, yeah, Fatal Attraction. Uh, yeah, I've actually heard people are oh God, once again, right? I heard that they're thinking about remaking Fatal Attraction, and I'm going like, why? Leave it alone. Leave it alone. It's it's fine as it is. Um, yeah, I Fatal Attraction. That's an interesting movie. Um, I didn't become a Glenn Close fan until later on. Um, I think well actually I should take that back. I think the first movie, the first time I became a Glenn Close fan was The World According to Garp. I was so surprised after watching her in that movie when she did Fatal Attraction. Like her Alex was totally. It's like when you meet Glenn Close, you're looking at her, you're going like, if I was going to make the exact opposite of Glenn Close, that would be it. Glenn, her portrayal as Alex, that would be the total polar opposite of who Glenn Close is. Which is why I think her performance was really great, because she's probably nothing like that in real life. Well, thank God. So I don't know. I don't know. I wonder how many rabbits she got asked to pose with after that movie. Miss Close, could you please pose for a picture with my rabbit? Um, Fantastic talent. So Will be here tomorrow. We're gonna be talking about all things crypt. I'm gonna be in my element tomorrow. We're gonna be talking about all things cryptid, all things monsters, all things bumping the night. Um, and I'm looking forward to that. And that will be tomorrow. That will be tomorrow night, and that will actually be our last show of the month. As far as 8 questions go, we'll be back here on the 30th, though. On the 30th, we'll be back on my channel for the ISC Midnights, and we will be discussing Oddity from last year on the movie Oddity. And then we will ride into April. We have April stuff booked. As a matter of fact, I just put up a new show. They put up a new show on April 16th. We'll be talking to the cast of a new horror film called Director's Cut. We'll have the 4 principals with us on the 16th, and that'll be a lot of fun as well. On April 2nd, we'll have artist Michael Bayouth will be with us, small business owner and artist Michael Bayouth will be with us. On the 3rd of April, the Mighty Camp Crush return. Jen Deal, Chris Spicer, maybe Gus, maybe appearance by Gus. You have to know that every time I do a guest that has the cat, I gotta talk about the cat. That's just it's in my contract. Um, they are actually right now in New Orleans as we speak, enjoying some well earned time off, getting ready. I do believe that their record release party that was on the 11th of April has sold out. Has sold out. They have actually sold out their venue. Um, for local bands, they'll sell out a venue. Um, and I asked them, I said, how big is your venue? And they're saying about 350, 400. So when they say 350, it means you can put about another 75 in there because, unless you have a fire marshal standing there, but you can generally add on another 50, 75 people to the max. I mean, and so so they'll have about 425 in there to watch them tear it up on their new record. And we have them a little bit first. We have them on the 3rd, and we're going to talk to them about the show. We're going to talk about the album. Um, I had hoped that we would. I mean, I thought about asking them to do a song for us, but I chose not to. It's their record release party. I want to get anticipation going for the show. I want you guys to like. We'll put the link. We'll put up the link to their all their websites, all their social media, so you can go and listen to them, including their videos. Basically, we want you to go buy the record. That's what we want. We want you to go buy the record. Um, they have worked really hard, and they're two of the nicest people I have met. It makes me really miss being in music, uh, being around people like Jen and Chris. Absolutely enamored with his drumming, by the way. His drumming is every time I listen to their band, I listen to the band. I just think his drumming is it's he's supremely talented. He's really good, real good. Um, and of course, of course, Jen's voice is just a voice of an angel. So there's nothing. But they'll be back with us on the 3rd. On the 8th of April, we have a Grail guest. It's been a long time since I've had a Grail guest. So I have a list of people that I want to have on the show. I write them down there like, this are the people I'm going to try, hope, and pray to get. And it's been a long time since we've had one. But we got one in April. We have one in April. On the 8th of April, we will be welcoming in actor and filmmaker Robert Lasardo will be here. Now, a lot of people say Robert who, but he's well. If you're a horror fan, if you're into drama, you know who he is. He's been in absolutely everything. Um, he's very good, very good. I saw the first movie I saw him in was a movie called Silencer, and I was blown away. I was like, that guy is awesome. Um, and then I started noticing that he was showing up in a lot of the same movies I was watching. And I was riveted. I'm like, this guy's really good. I mean, he's real good. And the thing about it is, though, it's like he's a total prototypical anti-hero, not villain. You see him, and you go like, wow, that guy he looks like he played heavy. No, don't be fooled by that. That he could go. He's like Mike Ferguson. Like again, I'm mentioning Mike. Shout out to Mike. Mike can come across both as a villain and as a hero. He really can. He can play both parts equally well. Robert's the same way. Robert is a perfect anti-hero. And I saw that when the very first movie I saw him in Silencer. That's a great performance. That's actually a goddamn good movie too. Man, that was a real good movie. Um, um, yeah, he's sort of like Michael Madsen, exactly, but but more intense. You know what I'm saying? He's like a Michael Madsen, and Michael Madsen can play the hero once in a while too. It's you don't really see him get a chance to do that very often, but he can do it. I mean, he was in Blood Rain. I think he played the good guy role in Blood Rain. But Robert's like that too. I mean, when you see him, like the picture I used for the on my Instagram. Um, oh, where's my guest? Let me see if I can find my guest. Okay. I'm sure he's coming up here in a minute. Oh, maybe he pinged me on Facebook. I gotta take a look at that. Just in case. Him and I did most of our conversation through Facebook, and I generally don't do that. Okay. Okay. Give me 1 second. All right. So he is on his way up. He is on his way up here. We'll get talking to Patrick here in a few minutes. All right. So Robert Lasardo will be here with us on the 8th. Very excited about that. I watched this movie he made called American Trash, and it is a very gritty movie. I would say there's a lot of Tarantino in that movie, except that it would be insulting that movie. I mean, it has sort of like the same vibe to it, but it's a much better movie than a Tarantino. It has the same sort of vibe, but American Trash is better. Um, and very thoughtful and very well written, very well acted. So, Robert will be here. And we'll be talking about his career on the 8th of April. Okay. All right. So April 9th rolls around here, and we are still rocking and rolling. April 9th, we'll see us, and we're going from one extreme to another. We're going from a man who's done tons of gritty action, violent, violent movies. Got to be honest with you, horror movies, action movies, whatnot. And Patrick has come to save me because it is a really weird booking. All right, so please welcome our guest in actor and stuntman Patreck Farley, and here we go.
Hello, everybody. How's it going?
Hey, Patrick, how are you? How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
Not bad, not bad. We were sitting here talking about about you and your career, and we definitely have questions, and we definitely want to hear your answers for sure.
Hopefully, I got some good answers for you guys.
Oh, you will definitely for sure. Hey, Cheryl, how are you? How are you? We're talking about before you got here. We're talking about martial arts, like you're a martial artist, and we've been talking about this subject for a while now, and the fact that there doesn't seem to be, when I read that was actually one of the reasons why I reached out to you to ask you to do this, was because you had a martial arts background.
That is
And
correct. Yes.
yeah, and I'm going like, because to me, I love martial arts. I love action movies with martial arts in it, but there is a terrible, terrible gap between the stars of the movies and who's coming up behind them. Because right now, I really don't know anybody who's coming behind, an Atkins or a Tony Jaa or a Jing Woo. I
That
don't know
is
anybody.
true. We sort of don't really have many of those people coming up to that particular skill level, I've noticed. Like, if
But
you look at all the actors and actresses in Cobra Kai, they're vastly different in comparison to, like, Donnie Yen, Tony Jaa, Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee, and even Scott Adkins.
Yeah, the first thing I know right off the bat, Cobra Kai, they're all actors doing fighting scenes, and you can tell. I mean, even the principals. There's one thing I'll say about Cobra Kai's fight scenes. They're slow.
They are. They're done well. You can tell where the choreography is in there and who actually knows martial arts, who doesn't, and then when the stunt double comes in, especially when you get the ones who are less proficient in gymnastics. The fight scenes are still done relatively well for what the actors can do, but you can tell only a small handful actually know what they're doing. The others only had on set training and like a few months before to prepare. They haven't been doing it between every season, every month. And that's kind of where you can really see the difference in those actors. That's why I bring that one more up as an example of how we're passing the torch to just about anyone who can do action, and that's a better way of doing it. But it's not the only way to do action in your films.
Yeah, I think they can get away with this in a series like Cobra Kai. I think they could get away with it because of the nostalgia and everything else. But I truly believe that if you were to take any of those young actors and put them on, make them stand up solo, or maybe pair them up with somebody, and then try to build a martial arts movie around them, I don't necessarily think they could do it.
It would be incredibly difficult.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you. That's and that's what I've been talking about. It was sort of like a mini crusade about that. It's like, who's going to be the next star? I mean, it's wide open right now. I mean, it is truly wide open. Anybody could be anybody could pick up that mantle and to become the next action star. Ricky,
that is correct. Yeah.
Our good friend Rick Malin's just walked in here. Hey,
hello,
Rick.
Ricky.
So I was sitting there watching this, and I was saying how you got martial arts skills, and there's one other thing that you have too. And as far as I'm concerned, one of the things is like, what do you look for in an action star? And not only do you have the skill set for it, but you definitely got the look.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you definitely got the look. I'm saying, going like, that's a leading man look right there. That's an action star look. It's it's like you just sit there and you look at the to me, it's like when if I'm a casting director and your picture comes across and your picture matches your fighting skills, there's potential and opportunity right there knocking on the door.
There is. I'm actually slated to do a few movies this year, one of which is my own, Fatal Encounter Reticent. Then I got casted to be a brotherly character in Skin Circuit for an action scene and a training montage as well. And then I'm also casted to be a main villain for like an alien in a short film called Echoes of the Korak, which might expand to feature length next year. I'm not quite sure yet. And all three of these projects have action in them.
Well, I tell you one thing. I'm sending this interview here. I'm sending this one here. I'm sending this to somebody I know, and I'm going to say, hey, you can't do anything, but I'm going to at least let you take a look who I talked to. It's like he's a well-known action director, and it's like, because that'd be one of the burning questions I would have for him too. It's like, he's a tremendous action adventure director, one of the best in the business. And I'm sure as he's doing his movies, I'm sure it's in the back of the head of every action director, especially like I mentioned, like people, they did a survey of what people what do you want to see on screen? Mm-hmm. And action and adventure movies are rated very high right now. That's what they want to see. They want to see something like a fatal encounter. They want to see,
definitely do.
Right. They want to see action films. They want to see, and the thing is, it's like, yeah, I want to do that too, but who do I use? Who do I use that actually can fight?
That's always the hard part.
Yes. I mean, you can go out there and grab 20 people and do Cobra Kai, You can grab 20 slips like myself and put out there with Cobra Kai, but that's not exactly what people want to see. They don't want to see that. They want to see someone like a Scott Adkins. They want to see someone like a Michael J. White. That's what they want. Someone who's a legitimate and credible martial artist, not someone who just playing at it.
That is true.
I just
Even
think
in
right
my
now. I was going to ask you, Patreck. I mean, hopefully, if you're okay, if you're comfortable answering this, but are you repped? I mean, do you have a manager, or are you repped right now yourself?
I had to represent myself right now. I don't have an agent or anything at this time.
Unbelievable, unbelievable. I just, yeah, it just, and the thing is, so the funny thing is that there's Hollywood out there spending millions and millions of dollars on all these movies, and they're like, but the action movies are the ones that are making, like watch Jason Statham's movie come out next week. It's going to come out. It's going to do a solid $15-20 million. It's going to be in profit within probably the second week.
Oh, easily, yeah.
Yeah.
He's a great martial artist.
Yeah.
And it shows too. I liked him a lot in The Expendables.
I my introduction to him was the Transporter.
That's a good one.
Oh man, I loved it. I love the Transporter. I thought it was a badass movie. That was my introduction to him, but again, it goes down to where all these guys like we're talking about, Jason Statham coming out, and he's 57. Scott Adkins is I think he's like 45 or 46. Michael J. White is in his 50s.
I believe Donnie Yen's in his 50s. I think Jackie Chan's in his 70s now.
43, I think. Let's see. Ricky's saying here, the Statham is a true Brit. The Beekeeper is my favorite Statham movie. Yeah, but there's nobody following them. So we're gonna get into that a little bit more. But right now, I want to go back to the beginning and see how you got your origins. How did you get into the movie business? Were you into the movie business first or martial arts first?
Martial arts. So as a kid, when I was 7 years old, my mom put me into karate because I asked her to, because I was such a big fan of Street Fighter. And I tried karate for a year and a half, and then I took a break from it, ventured into some other sports, and then realized that karate was still my favorite after trying basketball and soccer. So at 13, I hopped back into it, and I've been doing karate the last 18 years without stopping now. Just decided I don't want to do anything else. And in high school, I started dabbling with video cameras and video editors and scripts and wanting to I had to make something for my video production class and went, well, I like karate. I like Donnie Yen's Ip Man movie. Why don't I try making a little action movie myself? And I just took a little camcorder and asked a few friends if they wanted to be a part of this project, and we made it. It's nothing worthwhile to today's standards, but it's kind of where I got my upbringing back in 2011. And so for the last 14 years, I've been consistently making action films from home style action films all the way up into an indie studio movie with like a $50,000 budget. And I even premiered that one here in Northern Nevada. And I told myself I need to do something new for every single action film. Like, what haven't I done before in my last movie to kind of make this one different from that one? So I'm not always in my comfort zone, because otherwise I'm not growing and trying something new for the camera. And there are times where you have to bring in actors that are not martial artists and then get them up to speed the day of. And there are times you have the luxury of someone who does both, like I did with Nick Messersmith this last time around. He actually has a 4th degree black belt in Taekwondo. And so depending on who I'm working with, I would play to their strengths to kind of bring out the best action scene I can for that day. And then I would use my environment as well to kind of bring the characters into what they're fighting in.
I want to welcome our good friend Eric is here. Thank you for coming in, Eric. He's saying
Hello, Eric.
To you.
How's it going?
So So you've been doing this. You've been doing your films for quite a while now. Have you always been based in Nevada, or have you ever talked to anybody that has actually done a feature film? You know, as far as getting it out there in front of the public's eye. Have you talked about anybody about, you know, or have you collaborated with anybody else in trying to get get your movies, even the short movies, are in other people's hands? How hard is it? How hard is it to make a pitch for a martial arts film?
That's a good question, considering I haven't really pitched my movie to like a distributor quite yet. Right now, it's like self-distributed. Like my first films are free on YouTube to watch, and then my most recent one is available on Indie Nation Network and Vimeo through my own streaming service. Um, I'm still in the progress of trying to get that one out. I've had quite a few people I'm in contact with, and there's also the Film Hub route as well, where you can just completely distribute it through their platform. Once you meet their quality standards, they pitch it to a bunch of other platforms for you, like Tubi, Amazon Prime, and a handful of others. And then you can kind of see how your film does from there. Um, I haven't really decided which route I'm going quite yet, so I'm just testing the waters and still talking with people at this time. But my
Um,
goal is to get it to a larger audience.
yeah, it's got to be difficult. I mean, 'cause like I said, I mean, you know, to try to break into that market, it's like there's such a. I mean, it's almost like the people you're pitching it to. You know, instead of them seeing it as an opportunity, they, you know, instead of sitting there going like, hell yes, there's, you know, there's a need here. There's a gap. There's a gap. There's no one's doing what you're doing. Let's fill it. It seems to me like it's the opposite. You know, they're like, well,
Mm-hmm.
we like to do something like this with you, but we want to see what somebody else down the road is doing first before we take that chance. And to me, it's like, why are you, you know, to me, it's like, why aren't you taking that chance? I mean, there's to the distributor, it's like there's people want to see what this young man's offering. You know,
I just haven't yet is the better answer for it. Like it's been a work in progress and always like been in the back of my mind to get it out to a bunch of distributors. My first goal was just to get it into like a local movie theater showing. And then since then, I've been working on a bunch of videos to go with the movie and subtitles, and I just never got around to the distribution part yet, other than
well,
the couple of platforms I already mentioned.
now the Fatal Encounter series that you have, where you play Fennec. Now, are those feature length films, or are those features, are those, because I'm looking at your IMDb and I'm noticing that you have these listed here, but they look to be all feature length films. Are these all like, you know, over an hour long films, or are they just short
Two of
films?
the three are. So the first and third are feature length, but the second one is only like 33 or 34 minutes long.
Okay. So you got, so not only that, but now and here's another thing that I noticed too with this is that the fact that you have established, you know, you managed to get, you know, a lot of times it's like, you know, doing a bunch of short films, you know, like what could be, here's potential. But for you to put out some feature length films, um, yeah, that's pretty impressive. Now, did you do everything yourself in those films as far as casting, editing, you know, choreography for the fight scenes, or
Most of it, but not everything. I shared a lot of responsibilities with other people just so it wouldn't be too many hats, because I had that problem with my first two Fatal Encounters where I was trying to wear all the hats,
yeah,
and it definitely slowed down production, editing, getting it out there for people to see. And so by the time I went to my third Fatal Encounter, I decided not to make the same mistake twice. Um, so I already had someone dedicated for music, so the music's always choreographed to what the scenes are being filmed. And then I had a designated guy for visual effects, so I wouldn't have to worry about doing any of that myself. I would handle the main editing and sound design as they kind of bring all the elements back together. And I thankfully had a second fight choreographer for this last film, Nick Messersmith. So if I wasn't choreographing the scenes, I had him helping me choreograph as well. He'd help choreograph his own fight scenes, which was very helpful. So I could kind of take my creative energy and focus on the other scenes. So it's like one less thing for me to worry about. And when you're working on such a small scale, you don't have the luxury of a stunt person. So you have to do your own stunts.
Right.
Because we don't have someone that can look just like you to fill in to do it. Like maybe one day I can have someone for that purpose, but I'm also just hoping to have someone that knows what they're doing ahead of time, so I don't need to worry about that.
Right. Oh my gosh. Well, you
'Cause
basically became stuntman to pick up stunts basically out of necessity. I mean, you had to learn how to do your own stunts because there was nobody else.
That's true. I also wanted to just do it myself as well. So earlier on, I had the intention of I'm only going to be in front of the camera for as long as I need to, and then I can pull myself away. And then as the more I put myself in front of it, the better I got at it. Because I didn't really know a lot of martial arts friends who were like, "Hey, I want to be in your movie." I didn't really have that luxury, so
No.
I put myself in there and my friends, and I kind of brought us all up to speed as we kept making these movies.
Do you think there are some of your friends and you know and not only that your friends but yourself? I mean, do you think one of the reasons why that a lot of them aren't doing it, or you know they're hard to find, is because they don't see any opportunity in the future? It's like I'm a martial artist, so I'm gonna someone's gonna be able to use my skills, so I'm gonna be able to get work somewhere. But does it seem like that it's not working that way? I mean, I was just mentioning before you got here about, Marvel did their big release for their big next movie, and you just think to yourself, you're like, man, there's opportunity there. There's opportunity. They brought back Daredevil. They brought back Punisher.
And
There,
then
there's
we're
you know
down
like just
for
like
Avengers Doomsday is what
yeah
I'm seeing.
yeah. Why not reach out and yeah, we gotta get you repped.
Maybe
That's
one
like
day, yeah.
that's the thing, man. We got to get someone to actually send your resume to somebody, because it's like, man, believe me, there's people out there that can walk in there and do this shit and do it really well, and not just move at a slow pace either. Uh, I mean, I go back now and I watched the first original Karate Kid. Man, I got to be honest with you, that's some painful shit. Uh, that's some. I mean, I'm watching American martial arts movies. They have really suffered. They have really suffered. I mean, as far as that goes, I mean, it's yeah,
It's
it's
quite different than how Chinese Hollywood would handle their action movies, where they're
yes,
a lot more. They didn't used to be so fast paced. They used to actually be quite slow. If you look at those 1970s kung fu movies, especially like the Wu Tang collection. And so when I look at something like Karate Kid, I'm okay with it's a little slower for the choreography. I like how Johnny's more experienced than Daniel, and then you can see
right.
that, and it actually shows in their characters, anyways. I guess just for me personally, I kind of wish the actor who played Daniel would have trained more between Karate Kid and Cobra Kai, just because, but he never took up that interest, and it really shows in his older age.
It really does. I mean, William Zabka looks very comfortable. Uh, um, when he gets space, when he gets space to show off, so does Thomas Ian Griffin.
Mm-hmm.
But you always notice they always put him in small rooms. They don't really let him unleash his potential. I mean, and like nothing. There's the the worst fight scene in the Karate Kid movies, um, is in the third one, where Miyagi goes up there and faces against Cressy and Silver, and it's just, oh, you just shake your head and going like,
Yeah,
it's not Pat Morita's fault at all,
he's
but
not the martial artist type of guy. He never was. He was a comedian before they casted it in that.
it's just
And it's probably the best they could have came up with for him because he had to be very overpowering to those guys. but it didn't really age well either.
No, no, no. The first time you saw when I saw it in the theater was, wow, this is so cool. And then you come back and watch it now, and you go like, oh, cringe. It's like no one's buying that. I mean, that's why I always thought the remake of the Karate Kid was so much more realistic. That was it's such a better movie because you have two martial artists in there. You have Jackie Chan and you have the other teacher who shot the fame in here as we know him. He was the Iron Monkey. He was great in that. He did that with Donnie Yen. But
Yeah,
it just
Donnie Yen
doesn't.
is a legend himself.
Well, definitely. Jet Li and Donnie Yen are just amazing. Just yeah. Um, and of course, Jackie Chan's doing one last. He's doing the new Karate Kid. That's coming out and with Ralph
With
Macchio.
Ralph Macchio. Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling. I have a feeling you're going to get your wish for that in that one too. I have a feeling that Ralph Macchio will come across much better in that movie than not. Um, but again, my thing is like, okay, he's doing whatever he's going to do. I'm just I just wanted to see someone from the Cobra Kai cast. I just wanted to see one of them pick up the mantle and run with it, to lead the charge into the next American martial arts star, be it male or female. Um, I feel there's a couple of women martial artists that never got their due that could have helped bridge the gap between back then and now, but
Well, we
never.
are at least seeing the actors come out of Cobra Kai now. We've seen, oh my gosh, what's the actor's name? The one who played, oh my gosh, Mary Mouser's love interest. Basically, William Zabka's main student. I'm drawing a blank on the name for some reason. He was in the Blue Beetle, and then the girl who plays Tori, she was like in her own like movie or web series outside of Cobra Kai, even though it's more of like a drama. And I haven't really seen the other actors kind of hit other stuff yet. Maybe it's because I don't follow them on Instagram or something. But it's nice seeing them come up, even if it's not exactly action related.
Now, do you have on YouTube on your? I know you have Instagram, so I know you have Instagram. Now, do you have a YouTube channel as well? I should have asked you that beforehand, but do you have
I do.
with you fighting with so we can come look at at you in action?
I do. I have a channel called Farley Productions, and so in that one, you can see where I kind of create all my indie films. You can see a lot of behind the scene content of that, and where I'm also like training people as well in some clips. And I put both of my black belt tests on there from my first degree test to my fourth degree. So you kind of get a mix of a little bit of everything.
Now, as far as now, this one question I always ask here is, like, because I talk to a lot of people who do a lot of independent horror films, and a lot of times, they work within a community, horror film community, sometimes they'll do a film industry, film community as well, general one. Is there one because you're based in Nevada? Are you based in Las Vegas or Reno?
I'm based in Reno, actually.
Okay, okay.
I do
Now,
visit Vegas often because my dad lives down there, but other than visiting him or working on something, I don't go down there too much.
Now I know Reno is like they call it the biggest little city in the West. So how is Reno? Does Reno have a film industry, an active one that you know about? I mean, you have
It
Fran
does
here.
now. Like a decade ago, it wasn't really there, or at least I didn't have any access way of knowing who was around creating what types of films. All I knew was all these people in college who were wanting to do the same thing I was doing, and but we all kind of went our separate ways, or I wouldn't go to the right college to meet the right people. So within the last decade, it's been like a huge shift in the film industry here from indies to even like Hollywood. Like Warner Brothers has been negotiating deals with Nevada lawmakers to come into Nevada and make one of their films, even if it's just like heart of their movie is based in northern or southern Nevada, regardless of where they're filming at. And then I see a lot of other indie companies kind of start making their way up higher. Orange Tree Productions and Mad Wife Productions are one of the bigger names around here. And there's a lot of micro film companies also rising up, like myself. And then you got a bunch of other smaller indie filmmakers that are participating in these film festivals, from Silver State Storytellers, the Reno 48 Hour Film Festival, and just kind of seeing everybody come up and coming around has been very fruitful for me, because in 2011 I wish I had all these people, like I knew any of them. I didn't. It took me a long time to start finding this community and starting seeing stuff come up more. And it kind of helps everybody elevate each other, because you're only 2 people away from knowing someone in Reno.
Oh wow, that's good.
It's a really small but big city at the same time.
Now, have you done the 48 hours challenge yet?
I did it once. I've been a little too busy to dive back into it. I might do something next year.
That would be really a test to do, especially as an action star. I mean, that would be, I've seen some horror ones, I've seen some dramatic ones, but I've never seen an action 48-hour film, and I really like to see what that looked like.
Me too. When I was competing, we didn't get the action. We got thriller and like mystery, so we kind of dived into that genre instead.
Okay. But you still can use your fighting skills, though. That's the thing. You got a genre where you can show off your skills.
That'd be nice. It's like pulling a name out of a hat. So if you're lucky, you get it. If not, you got to do a Western, a romantic comedy, or whatever genre they give you. Then you only have 48 hours to write the script, shoot it, edit it, submit it. And so you're really on a time crunch to get that done.
I can see drawing the name out and it says a horror film, Friday the 13th, and you're going like, I've always wanted to test that out against Jason, and then we'll see you out there kicking his butt down Reno. Jason takes a beating in Reno. That would be an interesting movie.
It really would be.
It would be, yeah. I as far as thriller and mystery go, yeah, why not? I mean, you could definitely fit a couple of short fight scenes in there. I mean, there's been heroes with on TV shows that could, martial artists on TV shows, and that could they use their style in those in their scenes.
There's some funny.
Now, so as far as that goes, I mean, are you the only one doing? And do you cast all your own films too, Patreck? I mean, do you?
I do, yes. So, like, I have a selection of martial artists here in Reno that I'm casting for my next movie. My last one, I was more focused on actors, and then some with martial arts skills, some with at least stage combat experience, something I can work with. This next time around, I'm casting more martial artists and stuntmen so they can kind of be more brought up to speed on the action faster. So it's less time for me to have to train anybody, and then we can just get right on set. I know Nick Bulutini is one of the other martial artists in Reno, Nevada, who does his own action stuff. He's more kung fu when it comes to his, as mine is more karate. So we have like a different type of martial arts experience. Him and I would like to work together one day, but for now I'm working with more like Ty Gloniak, Braden White from Arkansas. He's going to be flying down here to be a part of my next action movie. And I also have Gio Amaya, Zugi Austin. So I got like a handful of people who know what they're doing. And it's going to make the fight scenes more intense, more believable, and be able to take us to that next level I'm going for. Casting myself has had its ups and downs. You'd think it would just be easy, like, oh, just cast that person. They want to be in the movie. But then there are times where people drop out. They can't do it. Something comes up. You got to replace that person, or maybe you never hear from them again. Yeah. And so now you got to replace someone for that role. And the longer I've been doing this, the better I've been getting at casting. kind of
Right.
seeing who I want to play certain roles. If you can't really
You,
act very well, I'll
you do
put you
know
in a
the
stunt role. And if you
you,
can act, I'll put you in an acting role. And I kind of go back and forth with that, kind of playing to
you do know
everybody's
that is a
strengths.
you do know that is a part of the process, though, right? Independent
It is,
film.
yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if I could just be like, that's your problem, and I'll just
Yeah.
focus on the creative side of things.
Yeah.
Um,
It's always. But to me, I'm just thinking, going like, man, it must be harder to replace someone who drops out on one of your films than it would be for just about any other genre there is. I mean, any other genre, horror or thriller or mystery drama, you can replace that actor a lot easier than you can with someone who's doing a martial arts, an action movie.
that is true. Because there's only so much you can hide if they don't know what they're doing. You can only throw the camera in and cut the angle like so many times before it just becomes too foreign identity, which is kind of what I'm straying away from. I want to be able to pull the camera back at times to show what we're doing. And only bring the camera in when it's for cinematic purposes.
Yeah, you want to be able to see who's, unlike Steven Seagal, who all you see is his stunt man, like 95% of the time.
Yeah, he's more of an Aikido type of guy where he's just throwing people around constantly. He doesn't really have a lot of punching and kicking in his
No,
background.
no. Yeah, it's always watching him is it's amazing. Poke fun at him because he is Steven Seagal. But I will say one thing. I will say that he still has some very fast hands.
Oh, he's very quick.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm sure he could. I'm sure he's still, that part of his, it's still there. Um, now, what is your style? I haven't even asked. Here I am, gotten all this way into that. I haven't even asked you your discipline. What is your discipline? What is your style of martial arts?
My style is a system called Goju Kempo. It's a mix of 7 different martial artists combined into one. And using that, we have a little bit of everything, which kind of gives me a lot of strengths. So we're not just only Taekwondo or only American Kempo. We have a bit of both of those on top of Goju Shure, Shotokan, Escrimas, and Arnis, a little bit of Judo, Jiu Jitsu, and Aikido, and even like some of Okinawan Shur and Ryu. And so we combine all of this to kind of create a more fundamental, traditional, modern style. And that's the same style I've been in for the last 18 years. I just recently got my 5th degree black belt in it as of February of this year. And now I own my own karate school that I purchased from my grandmaster that he was humble enough to give me. And I'm keeping the legacy going by training the next upcoming group of people to get to their black belts or wherever their martial arts journey may take them.
So you become now. Is your proper title sensei?
It is, yes. But
And
it's very American to call yourself sensei. So like I might introduce myself that to like my students. Like if it's a very like a first timer, you can call me sir or sensei, but I'm not going to keep calling myself sensei.
right.
Like I drop that title immediately, and only the students can call me that going forward. Otherwise, it's very weird to keep calling yourself like, oh, teacher, teacher. Like they know you're the teacher. You don't need to keep
Yeah.
telling them.
Well, unless you get hurt, and then one of your students can run over there and yells at you, "Teacher!" Okay. Did you watch a lot of martial arts films when you grew up? I mean, you were
I
also
did,
trained.
yes.
So, I mean, when you watch it, I guess watching one of those movies is a whole different from me watching one of those. I would sit there and just like, that's amazing, and you're sitting there going like, that's Hollywood. Who are some of the who are some of your favorite actors growing up? As far as martial artists go, who are some of the ones that really got you excited to watch?
Jackie Chan was the first one. When I saw him in Rush Hour as a kid, and I'm all playing Street Fighter 2 at the same time on my Super Nintendo, I fell in love with Ryu from that game, the guy in the white uniform with the black belt, and then Jackie Chan. And that's who I always loved going back into every time. And it took me a little bit later into my high school years to discover people like Scott Adkins, Tony Jaa, and Donnie Yen, and even why am I forgetting? I got Jet Li. So like those kind of became my 5 go-to inspirations when I would go watch an action movie. And of course, I'd go watch Bruce Lee because he's an inspiration for many of these guys. But I never fell in love with Bruce Lee as much as I did with Donnie Yen.
Yeah.
What I like about Bruce Lee is like he dominates every single fight he's in. He might get hit once or twice, but he's always like the dominating factor in his fight scenes. And that's just his preference, and I love everything about it. But what I love about Jackie Chan differently is you see him get his butt kicked. He's always the underdog, and he has to change his fighting style or find inspiration to like level up in the middle of his fight to finally beat this final bad guy in his movies. And I love that kind of stuff.
Drunken
I
Master,
feel like
right?
Drunken Master is a good example. Who Am I? And there's so many of them. And Donnie Yen, I started watching him with Ip Man that came out in 2008. Just rented it from my local Redbox, and that's kind of where I really got introduced to a different type of kung fu that I'd never seen before. I'm not used to it being so fast. All the kung fu movies I watched before that were really slow and choreographed, and like the punches are coming like a mile away just so you can get out of the way. And since I've never really studied kung fu, I just assumed that's how kung fu was really windy movements. And so seeing something more circular and inside the body instead of coming from out to inside it just blew my mind. And so I started diving more into what kung fu really is.
Tom has a question for you. He says,
Yes.
was Bruce Lee unique? I mean, what made Bruce Lee so unique? I mean, what was it about him? And as far as even today, the first name when someone says name a martial artist, it's always it seems like it's always going to be Bruce Lee. Even the kids today are still
He's like
saying
the founder. Yeah, he's the one who brought it over to Hollywood and America. Without him, we wouldn't really have martial arts action movies at all. And when he kind of grew out of the Wing Chun style that he learned, he created Jeet Kune Do, which is still being practiced in tons of schools today. What I like about Bruce Lee is like his intensity and authenticity in front of the camera. And you can see how intense and fast he is. And that's not even as fast as he can go. They told him to slow down because cameras back then could not capture that high of movement, trying to shoot at like whatever the frame rate was. Like we have cameras today where you can catch every frame of movement.
Yeah.
And,
isn't that something to be told back then, to be told to slow down?
Yes, they were. One of my favorite Bruce Lee ones is like where he's climbing up this tower, and every time he enters like a new room, there's like a new guy he has to fight.
Oh, Game of Death.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite Bruce Lee movies, just because you get to see him like have his own struggles with every opponent and how he has to fight everyone a little differently. And
Danny Inosanto was he's amazing. And you mentioned one of his styles, Eskrima, the Philippine stick fighting technique. I saw, that was the first time I think that was the first time that a lot of American audience saw like true judo or Eskrima. That was like the first time they saw those systems in front of an American audience. I thought that was really interesting, and you showed how Bruce Lee's character adapted to each technique.
And he also uses a lot of weapons too, which we never got to see in America before. We never saw nunchucks and Eskrimas and the bow be used the way Bruce Lee did.
Yeah, his nunchucks were just absolutely amazing. Those were at speed, right? I mean, when we watching those, that's at speed, did he have to slow down? Well, let's apply this to you. So, do you have to slow down when you do your fights? I mean, choreograph a fight scene for us that you've done recently. Walk us through it. Can you walk us through what you would do to prep for a fight? Let's say you're in the Bruce Lee character or Jackie Chan character. how do you prepare a fight like that? Like, let's say probably the most famous martial arts fight on film is the one with Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris.
Hmm.
How does one go about, like yourself as a director, an action director at that? How do you prepare for a fight like that in today's world? Not back then, but today. How would you do anything different, or have you done anything different?
There'll only be two ways I would prepare for something like that. One is if you have everybody at your disposal way ahead of time, then you can pre-practice all the choreography you want to do to where now it's just like you're dancing. You know all the moves. You can just run through everything, and then you can decide how intense or how many times you want to do it, and to get all your different camera angles in. That is the most optimal way. Now, I've never had the luxury of ever doing it that way. I've always kind of been different. Instead, I'll train people ahead of time when I can, and I'll fly people in from out of state. And so, because we live so far apart, there's no way I can pre choreograph everything. So, for me, the first thing that I do is I just write it down. I'll think of what this person can do, what my character can do, or whoever I'm writing for, and then I'll just write it down. Now, it's not set in stone when I write it. I like to change things as we go because sometimes I think of better ideas that I wasn't thinking about when I'm writing the script. So my script's length are really long because I write down all the choreography that just coming to my mind. It looks more like a book than just they fight, because it's kind of boring to read. And then when it comes to being on set, I'll have the actors or myself go over the choreography multiple times until where I feel like this is intense, this is realistic. So imagine like you're playing, for someone who hasn't really done martial arts, like where you're doing patty cake, you're used to this movement where you bring your hands together, other hand goes out, then the other. And then sometimes you go high, sometimes you go low. And you just kind of doing that again to where you're both comfortable. But involve that in martial arts and action. And then you want to be able to do those same movements, even though you just learned it like 10 seconds ago with your short term memory. Then you'll run through it. And if something happens, like an accident, say you slip and you kick someone harder than you intended, or you fell down at this part when you shouldn't have, if the shot looks really, really good on camera, I just say we keep it and we choreograph from you getting back up now, or we choreograph around you falling. Because
Mm.
sometimes those improvisations are like the best way to create an action scene. And then we keep doing that again and again until we decide it's time for a water break, some food, and then we kind of come back again and remember our last positions.
That's unique. That's a unique way of handling it. When you see someone, when someone gets popped like that, it's, they get up and they're a little bit irritated, because it's like, you're not supposed to slug me that way, and
Mm-hmm.
but then you walk in there and you say, that was excellent. You did a great job. You take the sting away from the actor who just got popped. Now you're telling them, like, that was great. You kept your composure. You didn't go. You just kept doing the scene. Now we could, now we can, we booked it. We're gonna use that. And thank you. I mean, what a great way to direct. What a great way to walk up there and sit there and handle something like that, because that does happen. I mean, people do get hit. Some of these.
You.
I mean,
The goal.
the one person I would never want to fight against ever would be probably someone like Tony Jaa, because that guy would hit you for real, and I wouldn't want to get hit by him at all.
Oh yeah,
Mm.
when you look at the Chinese Hollywood stunts and like the extras, they would actually hit the extras.
Yes.
So here we're trying not to hit each other, but sometimes accidents happen. You want to hit them enough to sell it, and if you can't pull your strike back to sell it, then you need to lay into the other actor. And so then we'll practice that multiple times so the other actor is expecting you to punch in harder so they can react to take out some of that sting. Let their
Oh,
body kind of go with it or move away from it.
I mean, you look at Hong Kong martial arts, and you just look at them going like, there's just no way in hell you're bringing that party to the United States. They're not going to ever let you do that. They're not going to ever let you just unleash. and fight at full speed. Wu Jing and the story about Wu Jing and Donnie Yen, fight in the alleyway in the police story. Or it wasn't police story. It was a SPD or I think
Killzone, yes.
Killzone.
That's
Yeah,
SPD in China, Killzone
that,
over here.
that's such a legendary story about how those two squared up and had a bet to see which one could land the real shot first. And it took them hours to do it because neither one of them could do it. And that they're fighting at full speed. That's just like, you can't do that over here. If went up to, director walked up there and says, yeah, that's what I want to do in Cobra Kai. Imagine going up there and say, all right, William and Ralph, we want you to go like this, and then show them that alley fight.
I don't think they'd be able to handle it. There is one actress on Cobra Kai. I think she'd be able to do it. Reina, I forget her last name. She played one of the Iron Dragons in season 6 that has to fight Tori. She's actually a 4th degree black belt in Taekwondo and like a 15 times world champion in tournaments. I know she could pull off stuff like that because she's been training since she was like 3 or 4 years old.
Right.
But not the other actors who are just started doing it because of Cobra Kai.
No, I would just, it'd be one of those things where you sitting there and you're watching that, you're just going like, man, that's just the absolutely stone cold control that they had, But you're right though. That's one of the things about Jackie Chan is like, things do happen on set, and of course you see, Jackie's famous for his outtakes at the end of his movies where where he gets banged up, and he either gets hit, where he falls, but most like in Rush Hour, you look at the end credits where all the outtakes, and you see him getting hit multiple times, trying to do a stunt, right? Trying to go through the bank teller, and he
window,
yeah. That choreography and trust. I guess what's more important in setting up a martial arts fight scene? Is it the choreography itself, or is it the trust that's the hardest part in setting up a scene like that?
Really depends on who you're asking that to. For me, it's both because there are times I'm not in front of the camera doing the fighting. I'm watching 2 other people fight their scene and I'm directing. But when I'm in their shoes, I want it to be able to trust the person I'm working with. Like, okay, I'm going to try not to hurt you, but I'm going to sell it like I am. And I trust you to try not to hurt me, but I want you to sell it like you are, because if you're not committing to your strikes, it's not going to be believable from any camera angle. So trust is important, but you also want to trust in how the choreography looks too, because if the choreography is just bad, it's going to be bad all around, no matter how good you both are.
Yeah. When I think about that, when I think of bad, I immediately go back to, I understand how he sells it still, but go back to something like someone Steven Seagal. His movies are they're bloody awful. They just went down to shit,
I haven't seen them in so long.
He hasn't done a movie in like 5 years, but all the movies he did before that though, they're just bloody awful. They're terrible.
One actor that I keep forgetting to mention is Michael J. White. Like, he is really phenomenal. He's like up there with Scott Adkins for me. And I only seen like a couple movies he's in.
He's amazing still. He's still absolutely stone cold amazing. He's still the fight scene he did with Bone and Blood and Bone is just absolutely insane. The Falcon Rising also excellent. I can't think of a movie more Michael J. White has done a martial arts film where it's always been top notch as far as the fight scenes go. Not every one of his movies have been, equal as far as dialogue goes. There's been some weak ones there, but as far as his fighting goes, hell, he even fought his wife, and he did a remake of Sudden Death, and he fought his wife. His wife, Jillian, is also a martial arts artist as well, and quite efficient. Uh, um, yeah, I think she's, she holds her own.
I
Now,
haven't seen that one yet, but I'll have to.
the other one I can think of, as far as American martial artists, is one that I saw in a movie called Accident Man with Scott Adkins, and that's Amy Johnston. Now, for the life of God, Patrick, I truly don't understand why she's not big. I truly don't get that, because you watch Accident Man and Scott Adkins, and martial artists. There's one thing I have to say about martial artists too, and action stars, but martial artists too. That's the fact that you guys are so freaking generous when you guys come into fight scenes. You guys, like you were mentioning earlier about Bruce Lee, like Bruce Lee he never got hurt. Nobody ever got ahead on Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee was always, they might get one or two in there, but that's it.
Yeah, he was always more of a dominating person in his scenes, which I still love and admire. I just prefer something more in between that, to where the hero's not always in control of the fight. Sometimes he has to, like him with Chuck Norris was probably one of the better ones, because he wasn't winning at first until he got the upper hand, where he started learning that Chuck Norris's character kept throwing the same three moves, and now he knew how to counter it. I like the hero where you see them struggle for a little while, and then they start gaining on their feet. They're learning, and then they overpower the bad guy. So if the hero's always winning, it's not as exciting to watch. And unfortunately, I feel like Hollywood's having a bit of that problem right now, where they don't want the hero to go through their own challenges and growth for some reason.
Yeah, and, that's what really sort of made. I mean, I like Chuck. I mean, everybody here, we all like Chuck Norris, but when it comes down to this fight scenes, you're right. He was like watching. It was like, I know it was made for TV, but who says that you have to squish down a final fight scene within the first 3 minutes? Like, why not let him have more space to groove? Let him have a few more minutes to fight. I mean, it makes it more interesting. I mean, every time he come up there, he'll, you're right, his fights were just over with. I mean, movie Chuck Norris was a little bit better. I mean, like you think Lone Wolf McQuade, and that fight scene was pretty intense.
That was one of those better ones.
Yeah, he actually got David Carradine actually hurt him, and he didn't. I don't think he necessarily apologized either. If I remember reading that right, but Chuck, but yeah, I like Chuck Norris, but I always thought that his fighting, was sort of just Hollywoodish. I know that he's a professional. He said that too. He says, "Well, who would win between you and Bruce?" And he said, "Well, Bruce was a TV fighter. I was, I did it in the ring." I don't think that would have really mattered. Honestly, I don't think that would have mattered if they would have fought face to face. I think Bruce Lee probably would have. I always said that Chuck Norris had the better feet and Bruce had the better hands. But watching Chuck fight, it really did get to be the same. And it's like there was no, I don't know. It just wasn't very exciting.
Yeah, like I always tell people, if you want to see a real fight, you'll go watch UFC. But if you want to see a fight for the movies as like a story and beginning to end, that's where the movies come in. So I wouldn't recommend movie fighting for the cage and vice versa, because it's going to be quite different. Like, we have some good MMA movies when it comes to fighting, but it's not the same as watching Jackie Chan fight a bunch of guys in a room. Two different kinds of entertainment.
Now, that's interesting you mentioned that, because I have noticed one martial artist that we already talked about who has changed his style. I mean, before he was like traditional martial arts, and then when the MMA came in, he changed his style and actually has been one of the best movies I've ever seen. And that was Donnie Yen. His Donnie Yen style is all MMA now. When you saw his later scenes, that's how he's fighting. He's fighting MMA style. He's not fighting traditional, martial artists.
Yeah, he does a really good job too. Like, I forget the name of it. It's like one with Scott Adkins in it, and he plays like a UFC fighter. Like, or like an MMA fighter in a cage, and the way that Scott Adkins talks about his fighting is like, he goes, all right, well, half of it we had to keep realistic because it's MMA in a cage, and the other half it's like you're never going to throw this in a cage, but it looks great for the camera, and it's fun and it's different, something you normally wouldn't see inside of the cage. And I think
I mean,
Scott Adkins and Donnie Yen have a great understanding of what works in real life really well and what works only for the camera, and then kind of blending those two together.
I was watching the Ip Man, the last movie when they showed off, and even though it was supposed to be in the early '70s, they changed up the style and let Scott Adkins fight MMA style, and that, and of course Donnie Yen fought Wu Ching. What was it? Wang Chung, like this.
Oh, Wing Chun, yeah.
He stayed in that. He stayed in that throughout because that was it, man. But Scott Adkins, they allowed his character to fight MMA style. It was really interesting watching that choreography. Very intense, and because he got to show off twice against that, because they had another fighter, Colin Chow. They had him fight him in the middle of that movie, and he also used that sort of like the MMA style too. And I guess it's like, I guess you probably get a lot of that, like versus questions like what's a better system, the way they fight in MMA or traditionalist martial arts. I guess to me it's like whatever works for you, right?
It depends on the practitioner. Yeah, anyone, like, you can find good and bad on both sides. So like, it just depends on who's training and who's studying and growing and who's using it for either tournaments or movies or realism. Like, there's like a tons of different genres that people like to dive into. Like, I want to take a tournament karate fighter and put him in a ring with a UFC fighter because they just want to do well together.
Yeah, I think one is like to me, a tournament fighter is like you fight. It's almost like you can't go all out. You're just doing enough to win a point.
Correct.
To me, it's like, man, that goes out the door. That mentality has to lead. When you walk in the cage, that has to stay outside the cage. You can't sit there and hold yourself back like that, right? I mean, if you're going against someone like like when they showed that. And they showed that with Ip Man versus Scott Adkins' character. He saw how before his fights he held back. Like the very first Ip Man and every time else he held back, except for the last fight with Scott Adkins where he finished him off. I mean, he just put him to sleep. I mean, he knew that. He knew that, like before I would just fight just enough just to win. That's not going to be enough for this. I had to go a little bit further within myself to take him down, to not let him, especially after he started getting hurt. He's getting hurt, and he, that's just that. It's a great scene. It's a great scene.
It's one of my favorites. I love all four of those movies. Like 1, 3, and 4 are like my favorites. 2 is kind of like the black sheep of the series for me. Still really good, but it's not the same as like 3 or 4.
I liked all four of them, and I also liked the one gentleman that he made it. They spun him off his own film, and he fought.
Oh, yes.
Yes, that was a great one.
Yeah, what's the actor's name? I'm drawing a blank. He was in Killzone 2 as the main villain too, and he does a phenomenal job.
I came late to Wu Jing. I saw him in Killzone, and then I saw him in Wolf Warrior. Wolf Warrior was such a badass movie.
I'll have to write that one down. I haven't seen that one yet.
Oh my god, that movie is insanely good. Insanely good. Scott Adkins and Wu Jing at the end. It's amazing. It's a great movie. All right, so the one young lady I was going to mention to, they're going to ask this for you with your community. So the one lady who I thought, I really thought she should have been a star, and I think she's amazing. And her fight scene, like, as far as being generous, like a Hollywood, the star of the movie, going like, She can kick my ass. That's fine. I have no problem. I have no trouble taking lumps from her because she's lethal. It's like any male that faced off against Cynthia Rothrock back in the 80s and 90s. They knew that going in there, like, you're gonna get your lumps. No matter what, you're gonna get beat by her. And the thing is, though, you can't really sit there and say, "Well, I would never lose to her in real life." I'm not so sure that'd be true. But the one lady I was mentioning is Amy Johnston, and she fought in an accident, and she was she's a. I'm not sure how good she was with her hands, but with weapons, shit, she put him through the paces. Great choreography, great choreography. Like I said, generous. I mean, she whipped his ass. She was whipping his ass. I mean, it was a great final fight. Now, do you get a lot of actresses in Reno that do you get a lot of actresses in Reno that actually want that also want to do this, that also want to step up and do movies? I mean, do you get called?
Movies, yes. Action movies, I'm not so sure yet. I guess it kind of depends. If it's mostly just firing guns and hiding behind buildings, you could grab any actress for that. But when it comes like the hand-to-hand combat martial arts stuff, I've had a couple names kind of fly past my head from other people I know, but no one I've met or known personally. So when it comes to like the actresses, I would love to have like a girl versus girl or girl versus guy that can like really have a fight scene down, and that'd be so cool. It's just like a short film for me. I just don't have any of those contacts that can do it. So even in my upcoming Fatal Encounter 4, the actresses that are fighting in it, I've limited their scenes to where they can still look good on camera and do some things, but they're not going to be held to the same standard of expectation as some of the guys who've been doing this for years and have more of a background and experience.
So let's talk a little bit about the Fatal Encounter franchise. You're making a new one right now, right?
I am, yes.
So talk to us a little bit about the new movie. What you can about the plot and how did you come up with the character of Fennec? Well, talk to us about the franchise.
So it started with an idea I had in 2014 when I went to bed one night and woke up, and I had this dream of this guy in a black karate uniform just storming my karate classroom and wanting to kick my butt. And I kind of took that idea into creating characters and writing a story around that. So the first Fatal Encounter kind of explores where Fennec comes from. He's a martial artist. He's a bit hard on himself. He's kind of depressed and down in the dumps. And because of someone who kind of forces his hand, he has to start taking action to put down the bad guys. And I've taken that story idea from the first all the way to the third. So by the time you get to the third movie, you've known that there's like this organization who wants to evolve humanity. At first they use viruses, and then they move on to nanotechnology. And every Fatal Encounter before the third one, they're just kind of stopping lower henchmen that are leaders of their own regiment and their own groups of people in warehouses. And then when you finally get to their leader, you got to see where it all comes from. And this time he's pissed. He has a vengeance. He has politics, money, power. He has control of the United States. He's taking control of everything. And because of that, he has no fear. He doesn't answer to anybody. So when he wants something done, he just goes and does it. And it's like a whole new level of what if. And so the first three Fatal Encounters kind of focus on this uprising organization that wants to evolve humanity in not the most humane ways, and then kind of like the rebellious group where Fennec comes from, where he doesn't want that to happen because the way they're doing it is wrong, where they're brainwashing people, kidnapping them, sending them off into wars and uprisings in cities. So if it was done in a more proper way, then he would have been more supportive, perhaps, instead of going against them the whole time. So the fourth movie kind of picks up where that leaves off. And I don't want to spoil too much about the third one, because I would like to encourage people to go watch it. The fourth movie picks up of kind of the aftermath of what happens when everything kind of calms down and once you take out the criminal overlord, there's like this power vacuum for someone else to take the mantle. And then so my character Fennec is looking at having more of a normal life. He's tired of all this fighting. He just wants to like do something different. And he kind of dives back into martial arts. Hey, I love doing it. Why don't I go run a karate school? I think that sounds like a great idea.
Okay.
And so he's trying to have a normal life, girlfriend, karate school, and he's wanting to kind of bring in more hobbies. So like you catch him reading a book or something, which he doesn't do very often. And then, of course, the bad guys play his hand. They force him to go back into what he has been doing, and as well as the U.S. government, because they need him to kind of take care of what's going on where he's at.
Well, we sure could use Finnick now for sure.
They definitely can. And so the fourth movie kind of explores those questions of what happens after all the big stuff is already done. Because we finished the third movie in Los Angeles, where I took a bunch of guys and we just flew or drive down there. I rented out a rooftop for the main bad guy and we filmed a whole fight scene up there. I rented out a large rustic warehouse and we filmed another fight scene in there too. And it kind of cuts off all loose ends, but I kind of leave it open on a cliffhanger of what happens to the characters after they separate.
Nice.
So you have Fennec on one side and one of his, which used to be a friend. They're more like frenemies towards the end of the third movie. He kind of goes his own way. And so Fatal Encounter 4, as well as Fatal Encounter Lazarus, kind of explores what these two characters are going through away from each other this time. If I ever decide to kind of bring it back for like a fifth one, way down the road. Hopefully not in Nevada as much though.
Right. It would actually be cool. It'd be cool if he just moved up to Vegas.
I could. I took the last one to Los Angeles for the end because I just want to do something outside of Nevada for once. And Los Angeles is one of my favorite cities. It's like the birth of all the filmmakers. So why not go down there and have like a whole big fight scene on top of a rooftop? That was always a dream of mine. So I went down there and did it.
Now, have you sent your who have you sent your movies to? I mean, have you
not enough people?
Yeah, we got to do something about that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I already know I'm already sending this to two people that I know. I'm already sending it to two people.
I'll send you a link. That way they don't have to pay for it.
Yeah, I'll send it over there because we've been talking. I'm thinking about two people that I know that I would like for them to see your work and see you. I mean, I have no connections or anything. I just have, there's friends, but I definitely would throw them your way and sit there and say, listen, here's, because we've talked about that too. We talked about that, like, man, there doesn't seem to be anybody filling the vacuum, so to speak, in the martial arts, as far as martial arts goes. There's, that's why we're getting like 30 Gerard Butler movies every year, because there's nobody else doing it. That's the reason why, people say, how come we always see these guys? We're always seeing these guys. Michael J. White's always, because there's no one else stepping up and helping him. You think that Michael J. White wants to go out there and make 30 movies a year?
Especially if they're all action related, you might want to do different genres. Like I know, like look at Adam Sandler. Like he used to only do comedy.
Yeah.
And then for the first time, I seen him do a complete drama film with like a space spider. Like that's totally out of his norm.
Oh yeah.
So even he wants to kind of dip his feet in different waters too. Like I don't know anyone who wants to stick in the same genre their entire life.
Nobody does. I mean, and you're right. You're right. I mean, there's been, that's why comedians seem to be do really, really well with dramatic roles. They just adapt to it so much more easier than anybody else on any level. But who's to say what a martial arts can do, because there's nobody out there doing it right now. Nobody in the public's eye. So I mean, we're gonna get this out there. We're gonna have to pound the drum a little bit. Everybody's need to check out Patreck Farley. Because he's a badass, and, he's making it happen. There's not. It's very hard. I've been doing this for a long time, and I can only talk to maybe 5 people I could think that would that could hold their own against with someone of your skill set. I was commenting before you got here. There's this group of stuntmen, and they do these tremendous scenes of 5 to 6 minutes. They're action scenes. And one of my friends, Josh Hahn, he did it, and and I'm going like, oh, this is so wicked. He played John Lee, who was the grandson of Odd Job and Goldfinger. And so he created the character of John Lee, and they threw together this badass fight scene. At the end of it, you're sitting there going like, I want to see that movie. I want to see that. I take my money. But that's all they've done so far. They just done fight scenes. And I'm waiting for them to go like, man, can't you expand that? Can you? And I guess
I've asked myself the same question too. I was going to take a break from Fatal Encounter to kind of do a mystery thriller. Like it's something that's in my back burner because I love detective stories like Murder on the Orient Express or Sherlock Holmes or Case Closed. But I had all these resources pour into me after the third one to where it was kind of hard not to go into pre-production for a fourth movie. Because they might not be there 3 years from now. Right. So
that was actually my last topic for tonight was how hard is it for you to budget your films? I mean, how do you budget your films? I mean, horror, it seems like a lot of horror films, a lot of thrillers, they go through the Indiegogo route, or the GoFundMe route. A lot of them do.
I've done that before. Not successfully, but I've done it. Or I've done Indiegogo to kind of bring some funds towards the production.
Did it work for you?
It helped pay for us getting to Los Angeles. So we made around $500 to $600, I forget the exact dollar amount. So that was pretty helpful in getting us to where we needed to go. And I haven't decided to do that this time around because of lack of time and lack of marketing. So I decided I'll self-fund my own movie. I'll use a bit of my tax return. I'll put some money aside every check. And I'm just going to grab people who are willing to do it for less, that also know what they're doing and want to get their names out there more, and then do more like a return investment into the people I'm working with.
Right.
But my last movie, I was thankful to have a few sponsors outside of Indiegogo. I had an anonymous sponsor that would donate 10 grand to us. I had a couple smaller companies give us up to $1,000 each. And that kind of helped pay for a lot of the production assets that we had. Because traveling on locations and the cast ended up costing the most. Everything else was thankfully less.
Right.
And so just getting through production was the hardest part. And so I can self-fund post-production myself.
Does Reno play itself out as a good place to shoot film? I mean, you got the desert, so you can go out there and blow shit up. But as a
I guess it depends on the action you're doing. So if you're just looking at shooting guns and blowing stuff up, there's plenty of places in Reno to do it at. Unless you're trying to do it downtown without a permit, then you're going to have some problems.
Yeah, right.
As far as like hand-to-hand combat, that's a lot harder to do. You probably want an open space. You're going to be left alone for a while. There's sometimes you might want to go outside to do something, but then you're battling daylight. You only have so much time to get to see them before the light changes. So Reno, just because I grew up here, has a lot more availability for me to do what I'm doing. But if you just move down here to start, I can imagine it being a little more difficult. So my advice to people would just be join the Reno filmmakers page and the Reno actors pages and kind of start building your connections, because there are plenty of us who might have a location available for you to shoot in. And Reno's a lot more affordable than Los Angeles, where you'd be paying like $250 an hour. You might just pay $250 for 8 hours, and you can save a lot more money for a similar location.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I'm gonna get that information, including the Reno page, and we're gonna, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you in action. I look forward to the films. I definitely want to, like I said, I definitely think you got right now where you're sitting at. Someone needs to jump in there and you know, because we want to see the movies. We want to see some martial arts films. We definitely do. Hear people on the tube here talk about it quite a bit. You know, I love to see action. I mean, people review action, review martial arts films. You know, we talk about it. I mean, it's there. People want us to, they want it. We just got to we just got to find the fighters. We got to find the people that can make stars. Not only can they fight, but do they look good doing it?
Mhm.
It's part of the game. It has to be. I mean, it's unfortunate, but that's how it is. So I think there's a future for it. We just got to get the right person on the right hand on the right project. That is time. Our time is up. The bell has hit. In fact, I kept Patreck over just a little bit. And thank you for your time so much. I really do appreciate it. This has been outstanding.
Anytime.
We got to do this again for sure.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for coming out and hanging out with us. And I want to thank the chat for coming out and hanging with us too. Tom and
Yeah,
Steve
thank you,
and
buddy.
Lucas. Even God hung out in the chat for a while with us. Let's see. Tom mentions that John Carpenter's first movies were shot in one location. I believe. Yeah, I also want to say George Lucas's was shot in one location. TXX 1138. I think that was in one area. But I want to thank you guys all for coming out. We'll be back tomorrow night at 8:00 with Will from the Red House. We're going to be talking all sorts of things called cryptids, beasts, wendigos, big feet. We're going to have fun tomorrow, that's for sure. I'm a huge cryptid fan. And so we'll be talking with him about his stories and how he got his podcast up and running. And that'll be tomorrow night at 8:00. We only got 2 shows this week, so thank you for coming out for both of these. Stay right where you're at, Patreck. I'm going to say goodnight to the chat, and then I'll talk to you off camera. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for your time and your support. I appreciate it. Wouldn't be here without you. Talk to you soon. Peace.
Have a good night.
Oh, that's never good. Live tech.
At least it was the camera falling and not you.